Welcome to Black Spring with Autumn on your Wednesday. We have just a few updates for you. We have a couple of mask hacks, and we also have just a little bit of information regarding the, I guess, the handling or if the management, I guess, in terms of the voter fraud and the allegations, and just a couple more things coming right up. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this flash stream of Black Spring with Autumn on your Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And I have a couple of updates that might be a bit user friendly to you, or at least you might consider those. And before I go into that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for those of you who are here, from the loyal patrons to the subscribers as well as the followers over on Periscope. Thank you guys so much for coming in, and I'll give you a little bit of the some of the premise of what I'm doing this morning on this stream, or this afternoon, wherever you are. This stream is actually going to kind of pivot around a little bit around some of the rhetoric, I guess, the rhetoric involving the election or the voter fraud. And also, we'll talk a little bit about the tone all the way from the World Economic Forum, as well as a few survival tips on the mask. And if you haven't been paying attention, I'll give you a direct link later, but we won't take too long to get into it. So shout out to everybody out there, to the friends in chat and stream, or those that are not quite sure if they're coming in or not. Thank you so much for considering coming in today. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys are doing well on your Wednesday. So with that said, I want to bring your attention to, now our friends over at Citizens for Free Speech. We have a few more tools. I have a few tools to share with you this morning. So I'm going to start with that. I appreciate you guys so much for taking care of the Channelytics. That would be including hitting the like or the unlike or sharing or whatever speaks to you. If nothing speaks to you, then that's fine. If you're not sure if you're coming in, or you decided you're not coming in, that's fine. I thank you for considering coming in. So we'll take our first. We'll go with the mask at first. I think this might be relevant to quite a few of you, whether you have concerns, or whether you have children and you're concerned about them, or maybe they've had some issues managing their mask, or even your school districts. I'm not sure how that's working out for many of you, but I want to share that first with you guys. So we'll go there first. But right before we do, I'd like to give a word of thanks to our sponsors. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. If you're looking for great content creators on the subject of automobiles, current events, politics, culture, history, you name it, take a look at our patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, and Anthony Scioli. And now, back to the news. All right, once again, thanks so much for coming in for this flash stream. And yes, we will start with our mask hacks, courtesy of our friends over at Citizens for Free Speech. And sometimes you might hear me give you the ticker CFFS. That's CFFS.org. So we'll go with that first. Once again, I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks so much for tuning in. And those of you that are considering coming in to Black Spring on your Wednesday. So, what we have here is we do have an immediate release from our friends at CFFS. This one is entitled CFFS Supports Parents, Caregivers in Opposing Face Mask Mandates for Children. So, adults report physical and psychological damage suffered by children masking at school. So, according to this, it's out of Mesa, Arizona, with the CV-19 spiking in cities and states across the country, due in large part to a massive increase in testing, as well as hypersensitive PCR tests, which routinely detect old infections by picking up fragments of dead viral cells. Government leaders are doubling down on their face mask mandates in a futile attempt to slow the spread of the virus. Included in these nationwide orders are requirements for American school-age children to wear face coverings throughout the day, the school day that is, leading to numerous reports of kids suffering physical and psychological trauma as a result. Now, Citizens for Free Speech, CFFS, a 501c3 grassroots organization dedicated to protecting the constitutional rights of American citizens, is now providing a forum for caregiving adults to report incidents of abuse and neglect of children caused by these unnecessary mandates. So we have a bit of an anecdotal beginning to this, and this one is, quote, my 11-year-old son started complaining of headaches soon after the school year started, end quote. A parent in Georgia reported to www.nomaskforkids.com. Quote, after questioning him, I discovered the headaches would start just a couple of hours into the school day. That's when I realized it was the mask, which makes him sick because you're not getting as much O2 to the brain, end quote. Headaches were also a problem for the children of this Massachusetts parent, and the problem became so severe that kids were pulled from school. Quote, my young children returned to school full-time in September. My children often came home upset and with headaches. One child was denied breaks even after I notified the school of the anxiety he was experiencing over all of this. Being in school with headaches is not a learning environment I could continue to keep my children in, end quote. Other parents reported skin conditions caused by several hours of forced masking on a daily basis. Quote, my daughter, who has never had any skin issues or illnesses, even minor colds were unusual for her, has developed a rash on her beautiful nose and chin from the constant wearing and has developed chronic allergies, end quote. Shared a Pennsylvania mom. Quote, the doctor has said the rash is from the mask, end quote. There's another. We have, quote, my son is in the 10th grade and he now shaves, end quote, a separate PA parent reported. Quote, but ever since he started wearing the mask, he is now breaking out everywhere that he shaves. Reason being is that he is not getting fresh air and he is breathing bacteria that comes from the mouth and is getting into his skin and causing infection, end quote. Stories such as these began pouring in from around the country within just a few hours of the incident sharing site going live. And CFFS founder and the executive director, Patrick Wood, believes they are just getting started. Quote, anyone with children or grandchildren has seen the horrific impact that mandatory face coverings have had on these kids, end quote. Wood stated, quote, parents will grouse to one another about what is happening to their kids, but when they realize there's nothing they can do about it, they feel helpless. Well, CFFS is here to help them getting something done about it. Okay, according to this, the goal, according to the CFS director, is to collect every verifiable story of physical and psychological trauma possible so that these stories can be shared with school and or government officials on behalf of the exacerbated parents and their desperate children. Quote, the suffering of a few kids might not generate the attention or actions required, end quote, Wood explained, but hearing the firsthand accounts of the suffering of thousands will force the powers that be to do something about it, end quote. Within 2 hours of the site going live, nearly 70 incidents of harm caused by mask mandates were reported by parents, teachers, and other child advocates, including 19 reports of psychological issues, 16 dermal, 15 pulmonary, 14 neurological, and even one dental issue. Okay, we have another here. Quote, my 10-year-old daughter has had complete mental breakdowns from wearing a mask to where she cries, yells, screams about how terrible her life is, in quote, lament a Bucks County PA parent. Quote, just the sight of the mask will now put her into a tailspin. It's coming to the point where she's avoiding the activity she loves the most, dance, all because she has to wear a mask. It's extremely difficult to breathe while dancing in a mask, especially after already wearing it for 6 hours at school, end quote. The most aggravating element of this growing problem for children across the nation, according to Wood, is that mask policies for children are almost wholly unnecessary. Quote, every leading infectious disease specialist and epidemiologist has admitted that the CV has almost no effect whatsoever on young children from becoming infected to spreading the virus to adults. People over the age of 70 with underlying health conditions are the most vulnerable. But for some reason, the government thinks it's a good policy to make healthy children pay the price for it, end quote. All right, so CFFS is encouraging all parents, guardians, teachers, coaches, and others who have witnessed through firsthand accounts the physical or emotional trauma endured by children in their care to share these incidents on the CFFS linked website. That is www.nomaskforkids.com. Quote, public awareness is our only avenue to correcting the severe health crisis being forced upon our children, end quote. Wood said, quote, our kids need us, end quote. So with that said, you can hop over to, hi, thanks so much, guys, for coming in. I really appreciate it. I see some new faces here. How are you? Hi, AZ. Good afternoon. Hi, awesome Alice. Thank you so much. And also, guys, AZ has a message here. AZ says there is a live rally going on at the Georgia State Capitol YouTube channel. Just another channel is live streaming it. Oh, thanks for that. Thanks for the heads up on that, AZ. And actually, what you can do, I will put the link in the stream here, but there's also one on the community tab. So if you're dealing with, and what they're looking for specifically, they're looking for firsthand accounts. So I wouldn't advise, I think in this instance, I think they're trying to keep this as relevant as possible. So I think what they're asking for they emphasize the firsthand accounts. So you want to go over, and if you have, I don't know if you have a nephew, if you have a child of your own, that's dealing with any issues or having those issues, you might want to go over. I'm not sure. I mean, we've had Patrick Wood and Mary Baker on before, and I guess it's a matter, this is good. You can do this. It's I think it's supportive of these incidents, and who knows what it might turn into in the future. So you might want to go over and have a look at that. But with that said, I'm actually going to do you one better, and I will include that actual link for you in, you may, who knows, what might come of it, but I'm going to put it here so that you guys can skip the tab. I do encourage everyone to go over and check out what's going on the tab, because usually I will put immediate releases that are, relevant to what's going on. So that's, I'm sure that'll be helpful for some. And who knows, I'm not following it. I don't have a firsthand account other than maybe my own experience, but I don't have an experience that's relevant to the cause and what's going on. And shout out to Joseph B. Thank you so much for coming in. And also Jeremy Lovell's Autistic Show. Thanks so much for coming in. So yes, I have included. Okay, so what you're going to have to do, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest, they are actually they have censored this link. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take it from word of mouth, or you're going to have to go over to the actual tab and grab it. It's nomaskforkids.com. So you guys know the level of AI that we're dealing with. That's why I really appreciate you guys hitting the like and the hitting like and unlike buttons and sharing when you can. because it helps with the AI. And yeah, I mean, they're doing great things all the time over on CFFS. And yeah, so it's along with it's the First Amendment. So until that is, I guess, completely scrubbed, then you might want to jump over and see what they're doing. I'm not sure if it's going to be a call to action. I'm not sure what they're doing with it, but I think they're pretty active. So you want to check it out for yourself. So that is the first point. It looks like it went through on Periscope, however, but it was. So they're marking it as spam, apparently. So apparently it's spam if you say anything like that. So go on over. I'm going to try it one more time directly and see what happens. But I mean, no one's surprised, right? No one's. If I said I was surprised, I think I'd be disingenuous to say that. Thanks so much, guys, for coming in. Okay, try it again. There you go. All right, so there you go. There is your link right there. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep going on here. So, the other thing I want to mention here is we've talked about the dynamics. We've talked about the Great Reset before. And we've talked about the influence of the globalist. And of course, we've got accounts now of they're admitting it, the mask is coming off, no pun intended. But you have of course, Klaus Schwab and Tedros Adhanom from the World Health Organization. They're all saying the same things. Even CNN, I believe, mentioned this, like you have to accept that, things are not going to go back to normal. Or, people say, oh, well, this is the new normal. Well, anything that's not normal, we're going to call it abnormal. We're here, I'll just call it abnormal. I won't call it the new normal. I'll try to stay away from the new speak. I really don't care for that language. Hi, Nick Smith 1. Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate you for coming in. So hop on over. Also, just go on over to the link if you want to know more deets about what's happening with the nomaskforkids.com movement. So I encourage you guys to do that. Looks like a couple of people have been over already, but I really appreciate the engagement there. There's tons of reports there. There's blogs there. Yeah, tons of action going on there. So get over there, see what you can do. All right. So with that said, I want to share a couple of stories with you. I want to share the first story that I want to share. It's going to come from our friends at the TNA. And this is going to go into the rabbit hole of the election fraud and the claims, ... So we'll go there, and then we'll also take a look at what the We Forum and what Klaus Schwab is saying, and we'll see what the globalists are saying about what the elites are telling you. They're telling you got to accept this, and how you'll see how the idioms that are being used, and some people are just sucking it up like a vacuum cleaner. They suck up idioms that come out. And we've talked about that before. Even Orwell, before his 1984, talked about how language, the disingenuity of language, and how it alone could be the enemy of the people. And I'm paraphrasing, but these are my hypotheses and these are my interpretations of what we're seeing and what we're being primed with. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to take you to our story from our friends at the JBS, and I'll give you our disclaimer. This segment of our show is brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for over 60 years, dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on the education, training, and development of the American voters. right. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we're going to bring in our first liner. All right. So, as I mentioned yesterday, I thought I saw for the week. I said, well, I anticipate at some point we're going to hear something from national security or someone out of Washington that may give us some insight on what on their work or on their own investigations of these claims. But we'll take it from here. Thank you so much for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So, according to what you see before you, we have a cybersecurity director, Chris Krebs, dismissed claims of election fraud. Trump, you're fired. Now, this is written by Bob Adelman, and this was released today. So, this one's coming hot off the press. So, according to this, President Donald Trump ran out of patience with Chris Krebs, his director of the CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and on Tuesday night fired him, as he noted in a tweet. The recent statement by Chris Krebs on the security of the 2020 election was highly inaccurate, and that there were massive improprieties and fraud, including dead people voting, poll watchers not allowed into polling locations, glitches in the voting machines, which changed votes from Trump to Biden, late voting, and many more. Therefore, effective immediately, Chris Krebs has been terminated as the director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Krebs knew it was coming. For weeks, he had been denying that there was intentional fraud involved in the president election, even setting up a, quote, rumor control, end quote, website that repeatedly challenged the president's claims of fraud. On November 12th, his agency released a statement declaring that the election was, quote, the most secure in American history. Now, you guys, I've heard that echoed even on the BBC, so we won't go to the BBC right now, but I can, that's a second account. I have seen that. So the November 3rd election was the most secure in American history. Right now, across the country, election officials are reviewing and double checking the entire election process prior to finalizing the result. There is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. While we know there are many unfounded claims and opportunities for misinformation about the process of our elections, we can assure you we have the utmost confidence in the security and integrity of our elections, and you should too. When you have questions, turn to the election officials as trusted voices as they administer elections. A closer look revealed that Krebs had a close relationship not only with Miles Taylor, who recently disclosed that he was the anti-Trump resistance author, quote, anonymous, end quote, but also with top people at Dominion Voting Systems, DVS. It's increasingly clear that DVS was the primary tool allegedly used to swing the election to Joe Biden. Krebs hosted an election night, quote, watch party, end quote, that was attended by two staffers of DVS. In addition, Krebs retweeted a message urging people not to circulate, quote, wild and baseless claims about voting machines, even if they're made by the president, end quote. The last straw was Krebs' tweet on Tuesday afternoon. ICYMI, on allegations that election systems were manipulated, 59 election security experts all agree, quote, in every case of which we are aware, these claims either have been unsubstantiated or are technically incoherent, end quote. Those, quote, 59 election security experts apparently hadn't learned that renowned attorney L. Lynn Wood, who successfully represented, quote, Atlanta bomber, end quote, Richard Jewell, and Kentucky teenager Nicholas Sandmann, had spent a day with Trump's top legal experts, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, reviewing their proof of election fraud. Afterwards, Wood told Newsmax TV host Howie Carr, I've seen sworn affidavits. I've seen sworn video testaments. I think that Rudy and Sidney have done a magnificent job in a short period of time of piecing together a solid legal case on what was intended to be a complicated scheme of fraud as it relates to the voting machines. When you boil it down, it simply amounts to the fact that the United States of America was relying on voting machines that were subject to manipulation. One of these affidavits came from a member of former Venezuelan dictator Chavez security detail. In it, he said, I was witness to the creation and operation of sophisticated electronic voting systems that permitted the leaders of the Venezuelan government to manipulate the tabulation of votes for national and local elections and select the winner of those elections in order to gain and maintain their power. The software and fundamental design of the electronic electoral system and software of Dominion and other election tabulating companies relies upon software that is a descendant of Smartmatic electoral management system. The editorial staff at WorldNet Daily revealed that the CEO of Smartmatic, Antonio Mujico, admitted in an Associated Press interview in August 2017 that his company's machines and software were created at least 1 million votes for Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. While this alone is not proof of fraud here in America, it certainly raises suspicions and ought to be further investigated. It was long past time for the president to rid himself of Krebs. If he ends up winning a second term, it is likely that the president will continue to clean his administration obstructionist in an effort to make certain that no presidential candidate in the future will have to face such evident and provable election fraud. All right, guys. So there you go. You have a firing. I mean, what are the chances that more firings will occur? Well, I think there's one that people are waiting on, and that would probably be Christopher Wray would be the next head that they would want to see, because he has the loyalty of, he's most loyal, it seems, to the establishment as well as the FBI, and I think the nation is pretty much secondary to that. So there you have that for another account. So we'll see if that makes it to mainstream. I'm not sure, but you heard it here. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Hope you guys are doing well in the chat. And I hope you guys are taking care with those channelytics, because we cannot quite get the word out if we're always suppressed here. And that's, of course, which it's happening, And then, of course, I think there's on Capitol Hill, or at least via Zoom, they're doing another theatrics with the CEOs of Facebook and Twitter. So we'll see. You'll see what comes out of that. So I want to move you on. Let's go on to, let's get into the globalist, to the masterminds of the Great Reset, and the Davosites. I'm going to call them the Davosites. Klaus Schwab. We have the World Health Organization. Come on. I'm trying to give you guys the players here. So we're going to go in first. Let's take a visit with we'll visit with Mr. Schwab first, because he plays a huge role. And then we'll go over to, we'll have a word from the World Health Organization, which, of course, you guys know by now that the World Health Organization is parented by no other than who? The United Nations. So we're gonna move into that just a little bit. All right. So I want to share this. This is coming from coronastocks.com. How apropos is that name? So I'm going to share this next one with you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right. So what you see before you comes from coronastocks.com. This is not familiar source, but we'll take it from here, because we can always go to our friends. It's actually written by Tyler Durden, and Tyler Durden actually writes for Zero Hedge. So globalist Klaus Schwab, world will, quote, never return to normal after COVID. All right. So this was actually published last week, but nevertheless, I think some people think that this is a natural thing that's upon us, and this is letting us know where we rank. Well, this is a way of letting us know where we rank in the scheme of things, but I wouldn't call it a spiritual notion. That's what I want to say. That's what I want to add. Okay. All right. So this is a picture of Klaus Schwab. All right. This was authored originally from Paul Joseph Watson via the Summit News. So there's summits going on all the time on the global, and in terms of the globalists and their plans and what they want to see for the world. And so there's a summit going on right now, and of course we'll get into some of those things later. But in his book, COVID-19, or what I call sometimes le COVID-19, the Great Reset World Economic Forum globalist Klaus Schwab asserts that the world will, quote, never, end quote, return to normal, despite him admitting that the CV, quote, doesn't pose a new existential threat, end quote. Breitbart's James Dillenpool unveils how Schwab is even more explicit in his book about the elite's plan for exploiting the CV pandemic than in his public statements. Schwab has continually pushed the CV to be exploited for, can I say it, the NWO. You guys can get the ticker or send me a message if you don't know what it is. Claiming, quote, now is a historical moment of time, not only to fight the virus, but to shape the system for the post-corona era. However, he goes further in the book, making it clear that the financial elite will never allow life to return to normal, suggesting that rolling lockdowns and other restrictions will become permanent. Quote, many of us are pondering when things will return to normal, end quote, writes Schwab. Quote, the short response is never. Nothing will ever return to the, quote, broken sense of normalcy that prevailed prior to the crisis, because the CV pandemic marks a fundamental inflection point in our global trajectory. Now, maybe we can flesh some of these out. We can play some of these out, but we'll keep going for now. The globalist makes this assertion despite admitting that the threat posed by the CV pales in comparison to previous pandemics. Quote, unlike certain past pandemics, the CV-19 doesn't pose a new existential threat, end quote, he writes. Schwab makes clear that the fourth industrial revolution, or the Great Reset, will fundamentally change how the world operates. Quote, radical changes of such consequence are coming that some pundits have referred to as before the CV, BC, and after the CV, AC era. We will continue to be surprised by both the rapidity and unexpected nature of these changes as they conflate with each other, and they will provoke second, third, fourth, and more order consequences, cascading effects, and unforeseen outcomes, he writes. As Dillenpool explains in his column, quote, the Great Reset merely represents a repackaging of the old globalist agenda, which has been stuttering over the last decade, namely technocratic dictatorial rule by a tiny elite, the, quote, Green New Deal, the gradual abolition of private property, a guaranteed minimum wage that will see jobs replaced by robots, a crackdown on personal liberties, and curtailing freedom of movement. As we previously highlighted, the idea that the world will never return to normal post-CV is being pushed by the establishment across the board. A senior U.S. Army official said that mask wearing and social distancing will become permanent, while CNN's international security editor Nick Patton Walsh asserted that, quote, that the mandatory wearing of masks will become, quote, permanent, end quote, just part of life, end quote, and the public would need to, quote, come to terms with it. So there you have that account, and it's very interesting. I don't own a copy of his book, The Great Reset. I don't, but I've seen other interviews, and I've seen other meetings of Schwab at Davos. I have seen those. So thank you guys so much once again for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys are doing well out there. So we'll keep going here. So just a little bit more for you, because we have certain things that are just cyclical right now. All the investigations, the allegations, and all of that's going to be around for a while. And it looks like even the masks are going to be around for a while, because you heard it here first. But to echo that sentiment, I wanted to bring you the World Health Organization the Parenting Health Organization for the World in the agenda. From hello, hi, Old Head Juice. Did you say what I think you said? Did you say the wifey listening today? Ah, that's very thanks so much. Hello to Alien Believers. Thank you so much. And David Singleton. Good for you. Awesome, Alice. Good for you. You guys get on over to the community tab if you want to check out what's happening with what's being done with the CFFS on the mask for children and custodians of children, whatever your roles are, teachers, maybe teachers want to talk about this. I don't know. Have to say this, and there's no bias. I wouldn't say that I'm biased against teachers because I actually happen to have a teaching background myself. But we have some teachers kind of err on the side of elite, and I think that's a little bit of a conflict of interest. And yeah, just read everything, question everything. That would be my message. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you we're going to echo the same sentiment coming from Klaus Schwab. It's going to come from Tedros, and we thought we had maybe seen the last of the WHO, but in the event that the tables change, the regime change, who knows? Who knows? He might have a key role back. He might have the U.S. wrapped right back in, and that's what they want. Okay, so without further ado, I will take you guys right over to Tedros giving it to you straight. You get it from the horse's mouth. All right, so I hope you guys are doing well out there. Uh-oh.
There will be no return to the old normal for the foreseeable future. I repeat, there will be no return to the old normal for the foreseeable.
Okay, so that's not, I don't, I'm not, I think that's pretty clear, right? I should play it one more time. So you're getting this confluence, you're getting this word from all these figures or these elites from all around the world. But the only thing I say, consider what those effects mean for the US. That has bearing on what we do. And it didn't materialize via the CV virus. It did not. I mean, a lot of people have rejected the NWO, but will they reject the term, the Great Reset? Will they reject that? Will they deny that? I don't know. But I'll keep going here. We'll probably have one other, I'll have one other liner for you. Hope you guys are well. So here's another point that I'm thinking, okay, so just for kicks and giggles, if we're saying if the fraud that's showing up, the grounds for fraud, so can we trust if we assume or if we accept that there has been fraud, or if we realize there's been fraud, wherever you're coming from, then does that mean we challenge everything? We would even challenge the stats. Because you guys, I did a little bit of a post or a commentary on, I was Bill O'Reilly that made a comment about, he said something about the Black community, I'm paraphrasing, not coming out for Trump, or that he was depending on, the Black community to show up in numbers. Well, if all the fraud comes out and if the case is made and it's substantiated in court, then can we trust any of the stats that have come out? Whether it's the Black vote, Latino vote, whomever. Can we trust any of those? I think it's all going to be questionable, and it's really putting it's going to put a cloud out there on the future of voting and the integrity of elections here. So without further ado, I'm going to take you on to one other liner, but please, those of you that are just checking in with us, I'll just show you a little bit of the screen. So I'll show you, for those of you that have kids or you're custodians of some sort, or you deal with childcare, this is a site I want to share with you. So you can hop over there. You can either go from my page, or of course you can go on your own. So this is the No Mask for Kids. And what they're looking for here, they're looking for firsthand accounts. That's why I mentioned if you're your kids, your niece, your nephew, if you've witnessed any of these things, or if you've got the firsthand accounts, like I wouldn't suggest that you go on and say, oh, hey, I heard about this kid in my neighborhood, and now he's got a huge acne problem. I wouldn't do it. That wouldn't be the approach. And I think they're asking you not to engage on that level. I think they're looking for firsthand accounts, and I guess even probably witnesses on some level. So if you want to take a look at that, or if there's points of interest there, so you can hop over there. And what you see before you, that is the actual title of that of the site. And also I've posted previous mask hacks on the community tab, so you might want to skirt over there and see what speaks to you over there. I mean, everybody's different, and everybody responds differently. So, shout out to everybody. Hello, I want to say hello to Melinda Ann Burns. Afternoon to you. Right on, Melinda Ann Burns says the insanity continues. Yes. Enough already, right? Just when we thought we had enough. So, yes. And David Singleton says it's all a conspiracy. It's all connected, even by Biden being selected. Well, now I've said this before, like, this is for those that I've got another, I guess I can call it a meme. I might have a little bit more of a meme for you. I don't know if I can share it with you, but I think this is very apropos what we're talking about. So we have a complicity theorist. That's a noun. A person who accepts the political narrative of the day unquestionably, consumes mainstream media like it was 1980, and is prone to submissiveness, outbursts of irrational fear, and public shaming of free thinkers. So there you go. There we go. We got a lot of complicity theorists, or as my friend says, head down, eyes up. So you guys will figure out which one works for you. And I always encourage you guys to do your own diligence and to be your own best fact checkers. And but hey, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. So you master your idioms, master your English. I appreciate you guys so much for coming in on this 11th hour stream. So just one more, and we'll get you guys in and out, and nobody will get hurt on this Wednesday. I thank you guys so much for coming in and coming out. So yeah, so I'm interested to see a retab. Who knows, a retabulation on, we have the Pew Research Center. We have all these centers who generate these stats and understanding how the election polls, and how they go all the way down to 2016, 2018. And of course they compare the Clinton races to, they keep it on rotation. So everything is, I think these are going to be some of the most prolific stats. But then which ones are you going to take? The ones from history, or are you going to do your due diligence and do your due diligence to figure out, to get where you need to be, get to your own understanding. I mean, sometimes, the truth is thick, is what I say. And without a doubt. All right. So we're going to do just one more. I hate to deprive you guys of all of the in the knows out there. All right. So just for kicks. Okay. So while we're all under the hypnosis or whatever of the COVID-19 and mask and all these things, and Democrats have a new environmental justice plan that mixes climate with BLM. So you see what I'm saying? You got the HR 6666 going on, and all kinds of things are happening. All right, so I'm going to share that with you guys, and that will be our final liner. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right, so what you see before you is from our friends at the TNA. And this is the Democrats' new environmental justice plan, mixes climate with BLM. This is written by Luis Miguel. So these things are kind of cycling back in because to me it's a softer way of kind of a softer way of saying the Green New Deal. I think they are trying to get to the Green New Deal, but they're trying to repackage these things. Everything's being repackaged, right? Because it's all living and breathing situations. So this one's back. So I want to give you a little bit of definition on. Let's talk about. You might say, what is environmental justice? Okay, so according to this, the House Democrats released a plan for combating, quote, the climate change, calling for the doctrine of, quote, environmental justice to figure prominently in American environmental policy. So I think that's probably, I think Joe Biden's actually hosting some type of forum right now as we speak. I'll let you guys, I don't think we're going to do much with that today. It's a bit much. Although we might talk about some toilet paper purchase limits, and see if that might trickle down to you. All right, so just to give you a little bit on the direction, I think the trajectory of the GND, that's the Green New Deal. I'm gonna look at this just for a split second here. So there's this massive 547-page document was presented by Democrats on the House Select Committee on the Climate Crisis. Quote, environmental justice must be at the center of federal climate and environmental policy, end quote. It reads in the opening description of the pillars of the Climate Crisis Action Plan. And I'm going to tell you, I've been able to, I think I've unmasked a couple of rhinos directly. I've unmasked a couple of rhinos from the whole climate, the climate change ideology, and even that's turned into a religion. You know, it's just, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But I'll give you guys a definition. At least you'll walk away with a definition today. All right. So the document glossary describes environmental justice as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, culture, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulation, and policies to ensure that each person enjoys, 1, the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards, and 2, equal access to federal agency action on environmental justice issues in order to have a healthy environment in which to live, learn, work, and recreate. Do you need your government yet? Do you guys feel that you need your government yet? Do you? I mean, honestly, I think it's going to be, I think to me, at many times I said earlier this year, I said, Trump is running against the climate change. He's actually, because who was their agent? When Greta Thunberg won Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and after everything that was going on with the economy being where it was, she ended up being the Person of the Year. And it was all around climate change. It was all around. And I figured, yeah, I thought that would be his biggest, I thought that would be his greatest opponent. But instead, it ended up that the CV entered the zone. So, I talked about how they humanize the CV. So it's, oh, how bad it is, but it's also going to give opportunity. This is the CV is going to give opportunity, and don't fear AI. It's going to create more jobs and then lose jobs and So I'll keep going there. Just a little bit more on that. As we always keep, the World Economic Forum really is the blueprint. I mean, I think actually the UN Agenda 2030, I think they basically kind of just turned everything over. It looks like they've relinquished everything over to the WE Forum. And that is a machine. The We Forum, they're doing summits and meetings all day, and everybody's at the top of the agenda. Every minority's at the top of the agenda. Women are at the top of the agenda. The man session, the she session, ad infinitum. So let's just keep going here. We'll go back. I mean, of course, we can go into that later, but for now, we'll just finish this one up here. All right, the document seeks to present a blueprint for the Democrat Party's official climate change policy, distinguishing it somewhat from the Green New Deal, championed by professed socialists such as Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. Why do I put myself through that one? The new plan is very similar to the Green New Deal, although it often takes a slower approach to the same goals. For example, while the Green New Deal calls for net zero greenhouse emissions by 2030, Democrats' plan moves the date back 20 years to 2050. So those of you in California, you kind of know about Newsom has got his ideas on helping them get to their net zero greenhouse emissions. All right. So like the GND, however, the new document advocates vast federal regulations on everything from infrastructure to building codes. The Democrat program would also mandate that no automobile emit greenhouse gases from 2035 on, with a mandate on heavy trucks following in 2040. And Democrats claim this would save 60,000 lives and $8 trillion due to health and climate benefits. Quote, Democrats know the climate crisis is the essential crisis of our time, threatening public health, jobs, and economy, national security, and values, end quote. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said at a press conference. The previous Democrat agenda included several radical calls for climate action, though these were sidelined amid the COVID-19 pandemic and the George Floyd riots. The new document mentions Floyd by name on its first page. As some states begin to slowly reopen, well, this was back in May, the nation erupted in protest in response to yet another police killing of a defenseless African-American man, George Floyd. Throughout it all, President Trump failed to lead the country in a unified and compassionate response. So here again, this is just kind of giving you a little bit on the way they're pairing between the Great Reset, the pandemic, the climate crisis. Everything they're doing is to say, hey, it's time to surrender everything. Time to surrender everything you got over to us. Do you get it? Shout out to everybody in the stream. I thank you guys so much for coming on. David Singleton, thank you so much for coming in. And Old Head Deuce, I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for taking care with the AI today. I really appreciate it. Because I mean, I'm not sure. I think they've restructured the way even you receive notifications. So yeah, just keep coming in. That will be helpful. Very, very helpful. All right, guys. Well, I won't take you into the into the global rhetoric today. We'll do it the next time, but just wanted to kind of get a few of these things out on the domestic end. And of course, we'll do our We Forum update. But I think that's something to watch. I think that's even more almost more important than some of these other things that are going on. It's a blueprint also as to what the Democrats are doing, because they take their entire playbook is coming out of, I think, the party of Davos, Klaus Schwab and the whole group. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll have one more word to the sponsors. Hello to King Julian 40. We'll do one more word for our sponsors, and we will sign off on this flash stream Black Spring with Autumn, and take a look at your community tab. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. If you're looking for great content creators on the subject of automobiles, current events, politics, culture, history, you name it, take a look at our patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, and Anthony Scioli. And now, back to the news. All right, guys, I did mention, and this is, even Kamala Harris was really concerned about toilet paper during the debate. So I figured, why not? I'll just bring you just a little bit of what's happened around the world from Sky News. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll bring you that imagery, and then we will get out of here.
Australia entering the harshest COVID lockdown in the country.
We need a circuit breaker. We need a circuit breaker to stay ahead of this. We need breathing space for a contact tracing blitz.
Despite there being just 2 new cases from the Parafield cluster, taking the total to 22, the state is being forced into a 6-day hibernation.
The message is stay at home unless you are accessing essential services or you are an essential worker.
All schools and childcare will be closed, all hospitality venues, all outdoor exercise, aged care and construction in lockdown, weddings and funerals banned, and masks compulsory. Staying open are supermarkets, medical care, public transport, airports, petrol stations and post offices.
We need to continue to move very quickly. There is no second chance to stop a second wave.
The state's chief health officer warning the virus is breeding quickly and without a short, sharp lockdown.
Then we're going to be in this for the long haul, and we will be like the experience in Victoria.
The Parafield cluster has sparked a testing rush, including at this drive-through centre at Victoria Park. But the chief health officer is advising against panic testing, which is seeing people rock up at clinics without symptoms or any link to possible infection sites.
That will just block up our testing sites. And I know that there have been very, very long queues at the testing site.
Testing times ahead for international arrivals at the Peppers Hotel, forced to restart 14 days quarantine after a COVID breach triggered the current cluster.
I mean, I think of myself as a pretty strong, mental person, being the job that I do, but I was struggling yesterday. I had to call the hotline to speak to someone yesterday, and I'm just one story out of, at least a couple of hundred people.
Thousands of South Australians are now preparing to endure the most extreme lockdown the nation has seen yet. In Adelaide, Eliza Edwards, Sky News.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. You guys have a great day, and also take a look at the No Mask for Kids for your kids, or maybe even your nieces or your nephews. I'm not sure, whatever relates to you, but it's actually on the community tab, as well as there is a couple of other mask hacks on there. All right. Hope that's helpful for you on your Monday, and you guys have a great rest of the week. I'll see you guys for the next live stream in the comment section, video, or maybe even the Moonlight stream. Have a great day.